Well, in 1998, Limerick accountant John Allen predicted the downfall of Ireland's banking institutions. His recommendations were ignored, and as he's pointing out, look at where we are now. He's with me in the studio. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Joe, and thank you very much for having me on your show.
Delighted to. So how did it all begin for you, looking into the banks and how they were regulated?
It was very easy, Joe. I wasn't the only one that knew. I did my research for many years. I have met with the senior counsels in Dublin. I have met with the top criminal judges in Dublin. I have met with the Office of Director of Corporate Enforcement. I have met with the CAB. I have met with the head of the Garda Forces. I have met with... There are just so many people. And the message that I was able to deduce from the facts and evidence that I collaborated and put together was easy to say. But nobody wanted to know. Nobody wanted me to tell you. Nobody wanted anyone to have the truth.
What was the truth?
The truth was that the banks believed that crime existed outside their walls and that their sanctuary within their walls was just a no-go area. They could do what they wanted. This is crime. This is another crime, a deceptive crime that you find hard to pin on. And this is where the problem begins.
There are bankers even today who would say that's a load of rubbish.
They're telling lies. Put them in front of me any day. Put anyone that defies what I say in front of me into the public arena. Anyone, and I will prove everything.
How were they, in your view, acting outside the law?
They were criminal in their actions. I have a letter, for example, from a regional Bank of Ireland who advised me to sue the Gardaí for negligence. Now, how can you go with that? The head of the Garda Forces was mad about that.
Now, you went to the National Crime Forum in 1998. What was that?
It was a forum set up by the Minister for Justice to evaluate evidence, to prepare a report to the public and the government on what their recommendations for future crime will be.
You made a presentation at Limerick City Hall.
I made a presentation as an accountant, the sole presentation on banks in Ireland, and everything I predicted came true.
What were you recommending in that presentation?
I was recommending, bottom line, zero tolerance. I was recommending that there be legislation put in place. I was recommending that the regulatory authorities reform. I was recommending that the Criminal Injury Tribunal be reformed as well. There were many, and no one wanted to listen. I had to film what I was presenting because I feared for my own professional life.
Really?
Yes. That was it at that time.
Because what you were saying was so dramatic and so few people wished to hear it.
Yes, and people laughed at it. It's even on film.
They laughed at it?
Yes. It's a joke, but it's true.
You see, in 1998, if I'm honest, I'd probably have laughed at it too.
I know. I can understand that. But the point is, when you have touched the matrix of what is happening, you know deep down in your heart and soul what was happening.
Were we not continuously told that there was loads of top-class regulation of the Irish banking system?
There was nothing. Absolutely nothing. The ethics of the banking regulations was absolutely rubbish.
Why would you say that, and why was it then, if you were predicting it, that nobody wanted to listen?
Because people were protecting themselves. People had their own insiders. People had the desire to greed. And greed manifested itself after that report. Is
it possible that some of the financial transactions that these people were involved in were so complex that even the regulators didn't understand them, and therefore were not aware that they were as serious as they turned out to be?
There is nothing complex about anything. Why are they withholding so much information? Why are we being told they cannot carry out and give you a report on something they should have done long ago? This withholding of information is an attempt to blind you, the citizen, the taxi driver, the ordinary Irish electorate. You are being fooled.
Is it possible that the minister and the government and those who were responsible for the National Crime Forum looked at what you were saying and just found it unbelievable? Not so much that they knew it was happening and covered it up, but they just couldn't believe that what you were saying was true.
You know, you can make many excuses. These are highly qualified people. The chairman was a top legal qualified person. You had people like him and others who were watching it, who were experienced. Why they didn't do it, and why are they being paid in their post astronomical sums of money, I don't know.
Were you a lone prophet? Were other people within your industry quietly saying to you, you know, John, you have a point?
Many people shared the same idea. They couldn't believe it. And I could see that point of view. I could see it. And I could feel what they felt too. And that was my problem, was trying to convince. Because the whole thing is about time. There's the time before and the time after. I had the experience of a time before. Now that has caught up today. It's now becoming a time after.
Where was the shift? Was the regulation in the banks in the 70s and 80s internally and from the government side better than it was in the 90s and the early noughties?
The regulations have been more or less the same since the beginning. What has happened is society and business has reformed and evolved, and regulations did not do likewise. The Law Reform Group, the people that are employed there, are very highly qualified people, but their remit by the minister needs to be reformed. We need more mix of business people and others to share a better opinion.
Were there not decent officials within the banks, decent bank managers throughout that time who would not have involved themselves in criminal activity?
It's a few that I talk about, and it's those at the top, and the board of directors, and the secretary of banks. They all know. Every one of them know.
What drove them then to do what they did?
Profitability to the shareholders. It was all an image. Self-serving purpose. Their salary. Look at their salaries. Need I say more?
Was there any point in the midst of this, post-1998, where a number of the top people within the banks could have decided, look, we've done very well here, let's draw back, and would that have helped?
The laws of the country are important for any economic evolving situation. If the laws are defective, no matter what economics decisions you make in the future, they're flawed for that reason. And because the minister did not do anything to reform the laws in his recommendations by the National Crime Forum, it gave reason for a defective evolving taking place.